I majored in art from the University of San Diego and a heavy minor in psychology. It was pretty good. It was really good up until I was about 10, just really, really great. And then my brother got sick and things shifted, and I was made to be very independent, which in the long run helped, but at the time it was lonely. That still impact my life. Yes, well, my brother being sick and me being independent and not necessarily needing to depend on anyone was great. Being attacked by several boys when I was 11, who happened to be my brother's friends. And since my brother was sick, my mom didn't want to do anything about it because they were his only friends. So that was hard. But back then it wasn't like the Me Too movement now of, if someone grabs your butt, they can go to jail practically. Back then it was, well, boys will be boys and you just have to watch yourself type of thing. So that definitely affected me for the rest of high school. I made sure I was never in a location alone with a guy, as well as college. So it was horrible at the time, but it protected me later. For years, it protected me. So that was, that was my, it was horrible, but it had good benefits in the end. High school was great. Home was horrible. My mother was crazy. Later, we were able to put actual psychological labels on it, but at the time it was just crazy. The actual high school building was my refuge. It was Arapahoe High School over there in Littleton. And I loved my teachers, loved my friends. It was such a refuge. Home was great as long as mom wasn't there. But she was very inconsistent, so I never knew what to expect. My dad was great. I did well in school just because I knew that if I could get out of the house, out of the state, go to a school where I had to have good enough grades to get out of town. So that was what made me get good enough grades to get the heck out of town. And college was amazing. Like I've told people in college readiness, it was like a 4-year slumber party with the occasional report thrown in. I made good enough grades to, I guess, B's. I never ditched, except for once to go surfing because the surf was great that day. And funny, all my group of friends, we all had really bad childhoods. So we called ourselves the misfit toys, like the kids in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I'm still very close to them. I did. I had never heavy like what I see in some students now. Again, back then there were not the labels put on. So if you had butterflies in your stomach or felt like throwing up before class or wanted to shut down because you were about to take a test, you kind of really didn't talk about it. You had butterflies, your friend said, yeah, I've got butterflies too, let's go on and take our test. It wasn't, well, then you've got anxiety and you should probably have a 504. And so we all felt kind of weird because we all thought we were the only ones who had these issues. I grew up with a lot of learning disabilities. I went to an elementary school for people with learning disabilities out on Hamden and Wadsworth. It's still there. So I felt weird, but it also made me try harder. So my anxiety was, I just fought it off because I thought I was the only one, or I thought it was silly. So I didn't feed it, which is good, but I also didn't help it, which was bad. I was an art major because I didn't want to take any business classes. But then after college, I didn't know what to do. So I went to South Africa to help out there because I was sick of American society. And it was to help, but it was also to put off the inevitable. I didn't know what to do. When I got back, I went to DU to getting a teaching certification. But it was for K-8 art. And I love art and I love kids, but I should not be in the same room where both of them are because it was horrible. So then I thought, well, I just shouldn't teach anything. I then had a desk job for 2 years where I made a lot of money, but I hated it. So I became a massage therapist for 16 years, which was great because I got to help people and explain how much their health impacts everything. And I also made really good money, and I was able to be home for my children, and I scheduled clients for their during my children's nap times because I really, really wanted to be home with my children. And then I was a professional organizer and a personal assistant, and I realized that all of those things was leading me to educate people. And then I realized how much I loved high schoolers, and I started substitute teaching. And then this was my favorite place to substitute teach, so when they offered me a job to do grit, I grabbed it. You know, a little bit when you're turning in your resume, you're always going to have some anxiety, but prayer, like, God, if I'm meant to get this job, let me get it. If not, that's fine too. Then I wasn't meant to get it. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe if something doesn't happen, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. If I don't get the job, then I wasn't meant to have it. So really just minor butterflies in my stomach when I would head in for an interview. When I hear what people are going through now, it's pretty alien to me. I feel so bad because I just didn't have that. When I talk with people who have 504s for ADD or audio discrimination or word retrieval problems, then I empathize because that's exactly what I have gone through and continue to go through. You never get over those things, you just learn to compensate. When I hear about them having anxiety, all I can think of is the things that I do to help me fall asleep, or the things that I taught in college readiness to calm yourself down. So focused meditation, getting enough sleep, exercise, even if it's light exercise, walking around the block, going outside, looking at something in nature. And I know for some people, things like that will barely scratch the surface. I have no way to help people with severe anxiety because I've never dealt with it. So for them, all I can do is what I read. But for everything that I taught in college readiness, those are things that I do for myself before something, like if one of my children has surgery or one did, and I did things like that. Or if I can't fall asleep at night, then I will do all of those things. And I find that they help. I would say that I've heard some really bad stories from kids, and they break my heart. The things that I went through as a kid, being attacked by those boys, and then still having to be around them for the rest of the year and pretend like nothing happened, was really, really hard. And I did not get therapy for 10 years because I thought about it every single day, but I did not get therapy for 10 years because I kept trying to brush it away. I kept trying to say there was nothing about it, or that it was my fault that it happened, which is such a woman's mistake in thinking that it's because of the way I dressed. It's because I went into their game room when I had a feeling that something was wrong. And yes, you should follow your instinct, but I was 11. And so don't beat yourself up over it when and if something happens, because to at least a third of the girls and women it will. So 10 years later when I got therapy, I was in college by then. I was about to graduate and everybody got free therapy in college, and I thought, this is my chance, because if I wait till I graduate, it's going to cost a fortune. So I went to see the local therapist on campus 12 times in the last 3 weeks because everybody was allotted 12 sessions in 4 years, and I just crammed it all together. And I thought it was the most horrible thing that he was going to ever hear. And I said, this is so shameful, this is hideous, isn't it? And he said, absolutely not. And I realized later that many, many, many worse things have happened to many, many, many millions of women. But it was my shame, even though it was not mine to carry. And that was a huge weight off. And so for anybody who's gone through anything worse, or even not as bad, but they think it's worse, get help and do not carry the weight. And then if you, the other thing would be if you have learning disabilities, whatever they are, and there's so many, you will get over it. You will be able to compensate, because most people with learning disabilities are smarter than people who don't have learning disabilities. And I don't know if that's a natural correlation or just a gift that we've gotten with the burden, but you will get better. It will be better. A ton of people have it. You're not the only one. It will serve you later because you will try harder. I would rather be who I am with everything that I've gone through, because it's made me a stronger person, more empathetic person. And if I had just been living in some picket fence life and nothing had really ever bad happened to me, and I actually don't think that anybody exists like that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So I think everybody should know that. Don't carry it as a hideous burden. Release it and be stronger because of it. That's all I say.